the lower class. There was that direct definition. Another example, again, from the old times. A classic character. This one straddles the border of science fiction and supernatural horror. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Okay, Frankenstein. The name of the monster is not Frankenstein. That's the name of the scientist. The name of the monster was Adam, named after the first man. Okay, and he was brought to life sci-fi way, mad scientist, lab, lightning, dead body parts, etc. But really, the story has not just a lot of science behind it, where they're studying, homunculuses, which is a term for the fake man, right? But it had a lot of philosophy, creation of life, man taking God's abilities into his own hands. Essential. So essential bigla na may character ka na nabubuhay through science and some mysticism involved. And that philosophy was put into that story. So I'll use a current version, okay? So these needed elements need not be confined to man-like supernatural beings. It even can apply to monsters. But I have a favorite movie. One of my favorite movies was 1982, John Carpenter's The Thing, science fiction horror. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Okay, it came out at the same time as, more or less the same time as Alien, 1979. But John Carpenter's The Thing was good. But not many people know that it was based on John Campbell's novella, Who Goes There? Okay, just to give you a short synopsis, there are people in the North Pole who are scientists, explorers. They're stuck there in a snowstorm. They're exploring the land because that's their job as scientists. They discover a spaceship buried in the ice while digging. And inside they find a monster. They fall out thinking it's human, but it becomes a blob and begins taking over their bodies, taking their shape, letting them, assimilating them into themselves. So, the alien is so horrific, and the science connected only to the fact that it's an alien, that really, it's possible the story could have worked if the author could not consider it as an alien. However, how did it work coming to the modern times now? Recently on Clark's World Magazine, clarksworldmagazine.com, Peter Watts, a Canadian science fiction author, wrote a story called The Things, which is like a retelling of the whole story of John Campbell, Who Goes There, from the point of view of the monster. Okay? And the monster was not a monster to itself in his story. In his story, we are the monsters. Because for him, utopia is assimilation. Like communism. Everybody's the same. So in his viewpoint, in Peter Watts' story of The Things, everybody should be the same. So when he saw us, each of us as an individual, natakot yung monster sa atin. Ano to? Ba't ang daming individual? And the way he described this, we are cancers. We're cancers because we're each growing on our own instead of being part of a whole. So the monster decides to save us by assimilating us, by using his powers to assimilate us and make us whole. The term they used, and Clark's World is known for its sci-fi horror, the term used, the monster, from monster's point of view, I have to rape it into this human race. I have to rape it. I have to make them understand that what I'm giving them is real. And then it's all the more horrifying for us who value our individuality because we pride ourselves for being who we are as we are. See? So that was wonderful characterization. And suddenly the thing, which originally was just a monster, now has character. So there you have a supernatural character that makes sense. So, the balance you have to strike in making your supernatural character is you have to make them human enough. That's the key for me. You have to give them some human element that we can understand so that the reader won't feel too alienated. Okay? And yet, it has to be different enough because of their supernatural abilities so that they're apart. There has to be some connect, as said by Mr. Chicampo a while ago. There has to be some connection. But then, not too much. Because it's what sets them apart that makes them mysterious. And what we see that's alike that brings us together. I guess that's sort of like how my wife describes romance. Um, in fact, the challenge for most people now is to do what Peter Watts did, which is to take a supernatural character that we are familiar with and turn it on its head. Because, I'll be frank, people are now saying that all the good stories have been told. And as I get older and more jaded with it, with every month that passed by, baka nga all the stories have been good told. So nasa interpretation na lang. So it's more a matter of differentiating the presentation. So I propose two challenges actually to all you listeners here. No? Come up with a new supernatural character, if you can, unless they've all been told. All the good characters have been taken, all the good stories told. Or like Watts, add a twist to an existing one. Here's a simple one. We know the classic story, this classic ghost story. Let's take ghosts, supernatural character, the ghost. Driver of a car on the lonely street at night picks up a hitchhiker. They talk, there's some spooky, how are you, where do you come from, blah, blah, blah. What are you doing out so late at night? Something unbelievable. Then the hitchhiker, asks the driver, drop me off here. Okay, are you sure? I don't know where we are. The fog is rolled in, it's too dark to see anything. Okay, it's done. But he's so intrigued by her backstory, he checks her out, he goes back to the place, and he finds out he dropped her out of the cemetery. Okay, she gave him his name, and he walks into the cemetery and finds a tombstone with the name. Typical. Very classic ghost story. Even Archie Comics has done something with it. I read that back when I was a kid. Archie Comics did that, and they added some crime and revenge into that story. So, you can try like Watts to tell it from the ghost's point of view, because most of it's been told from the driver's point of view. You can put in something different, not just crime and revenge, maybe romance, maybe set it in a future era, in a different time, or the past. Or here's one that I challenged a recent writing group to do. Try telling the story from an information point of view, where the ghost is in the internet. Okay? Perhaps it plays a role on the web. So maybe that's story in a little science fiction. So really, you have to keep all this in mind to keep the V word, the very long, complicated, multisyllabic word that's so hard to understand. You have to keep that V word in your story, because otherwise you've lost it. And that's the challenge in keeping your supernatural character real for the reader. Yeah. Thank you very much.